everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Origins Podcast. I am here today with Rita Zamora, the industry leader in all things social media as it relates to dentists and their practices, fellow SEN member, fellow Facebook group member. I think that's how you and I originally connected, was just randomly through a Facebook groups. So, you see everybody's names over and over and over, and you're just like, who is that person? But thank you so much for doing the podcast. I'm so glad to have you.
Thank you for the invitation. It's great to be here.
How's everything been going with Connect 90? And, I always see you traveling, speaking. When you're not doing that stuff, you're always out in nature, hiking, and, always living your best life. So how has everything been this year? How was 2023? What's coming for you in 2024? How's everything been?
Yeah, everything's been amazing. I think, like everyone else, we're trying to squeeze every bit of life out that we can, we've been out of COVID for quite a while, but I feel like people are still trying to get all the things in, going to all the conferences that they can and going to, take all the vacations to all these exciting places. For me, the exciting places are to be in the nooks and crannies of Colorado. So, road trips are my thing. I'd way rather do that than travel internationally. I've done a lot of international travel. Have you too? Yeah.
Same on just spontaneous road trips and staying in the Continental. It's just easier, and there's so much to see.
There is. And, I was fortunate. I did a lot of traveling when I was in my 20s. I did a lot of international travel and saw a lot of the world. And I just really enjoy finding little nooks and crannies that we haven't discovered yet. And we live in Colorado, my husband and I. So I love just getting in the car and going to different parts of Colorado that we haven't visited yet. And so that's been really fun to just explore. And that's really the highlight for me of 2023, I would say, just being out in nature and enjoying that.
Well, you're always taking great photos, obviously, as a social media marketer, and your dogs are always having a great time, it looks like, too. So if you don't follow her accounts, definitely go and follow. The nature photography and everything is well worth it, as well as the animal comedy is usually good too. Your dogs have quite distinct personalities.
Yes, and we only have one dog, Sean, but I know she has a lot of sweaters, so you might think we have multiples, but
Gotcha.
She has a lot of outfits. But
so it's just the one diva.
We're down to one dog at this point. Yeah.
Well, she is pure comedy. That your feed always cracks me up. But no, it's great to have you, and I'm glad that you're here, because social media is not something that we regularly really talk about. And there's a lot of people that do social media, but there's very few people that have done it to the level and with the industry respect and the name and just the recognition that you have in dentistry. And I'm really excited to hear how you did this and how you, because I know you started back in 2007, I think your bio said, roughly somewhere in there.
Yes.
So take us on that journey. Like, how did you want to be a marketer growing up? How did you end up working in dental marketing? All of the goods. Like, feel free to start wherever you think is relevant.
Yeah, well, I think it's most important to share, and the most meaningful part to me is that consider myself a dental person first and foremost. I started working in a perio practice actually many moons ago. It was a small practice at the time. We only had a few team members and the doctor. It was one periodontist. And then I stayed there for 15 years. And over the course of that 15 years, we grew the practice to, when I left, we had 5 periodontists, multiple locations, and over 20, I think it was about 25 team members at that time. So I got to learn a lot over those years about the different roles. I worked in many different roles in the practice. I started working at the front desk, the notorious front desk piece of furniture, as we should not refer to it any longer. I'm part of the admin team, the reception team. That's where I started working. And then I did some dental assisting, a little bit of charting and that sort of thing. I couldn't really handle the injections and all of the, surgical side of periodontal treatment. So I didn't really last in assisting for very long before I realized the admin team was where I needed to be. So I started doing case presentation and treatment coordination and talking to patients about accepting treatment and following up with patients. And at the time, we were doing really big perio and implant cases. So we're talking to patients about removing lots of teeth sometimes, about bone grafts, sinus augmentations, all different kinds of gum grafts. And I learned all about subepithelial connective tissue grafts and all the things. And most importantly, learned how to build trust with patients, because
Mm-hmm.
the patients that were coming in, they were fearful about the treatment, about the surgery, about the time it was going to take, and of course, about the investment that they needed to make. So that's really where I think I fell in love with dentistry and the profession, was learning how to connect with patients and then encouraging them through that process, because it was a long process to, for some patients, if they had severe periodontal disease, or even just if a few teeth were affected, where you have to remove the teeth and then you're sometimes doing bone grafting and then replacing them, and talking to patients about their fears and concerns. Am I going to leave leave the office without teeth?
Mm-hmm.
How am I going to afford this? What kind of payment arrangements do you have? And and then following up with patients throughout their whole journey to make sure that they were completing treatment, because sometimes they'd only do 1 or 2 quadrants, and then we're like, you have to come back and get the rest of it done. So
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
so that was really where I fell in love with dentistry. And then after, as I was doing that case presentation and treatment coordinator role, I actually went back to school to complete my college education. So the periodontist that I work for flexed my schedule so that I could work full time and go to school. And I got my bachelor's degree in business and marketing from the University of Colorado while I was working in the practice. So I had
Nice.
a lot of energy at the time.
Yeah.
Now, like, I don't know how I did all of that. But I'm so grateful for the doctor, Dr. Mark Reisner, who's retired now, but he was really a great mentor for me and showed me, how important education is by accommodating my schedule. And that's when social media came about. And I took more and more of an interest in marketing and started doing referral marketing for that practice, getting to know dentists in the area. And then dentists would say, can you help us with our referral program? Or, then can you help us with social media? And it kind of took off from there.
That is awesome. I didn't know you were a Buffalo either. That's great. That's great.
Yes, we're famous now, right? I mean,
Y-
everybody's like
With the
familiar with what's going on.
yeah, with the Deion Sanders effect, but
Yes, Coach
uh,
Prime,
Coach
actually.
Prime. That's right.
Yeah.
Well, that is a really cool journey, especially into social media, because social media is so saturated. I mean, every aspect of dental marketing now is so saturated, and there's so many things that are out there in the groups. It just kind of running around dentistry of things that are, incorrect approach, kind of this flash in the pan, silver bullet stuff that doesn't really work. And so I'm curious with like what kind of was your secret sauce, or when you started? Because I remember 2007, 2008. I mean, I was playing music and traveling all over the country at that time, but I remember it was like MySpace into Facebook. Facebook was still kind of that random thing where you'd write like a 4 or 5 word post. It'd be like, "What are you doing?" You'd be like, "Eating ramen" or whatever. You know what I mean?
Going to
But
get my hair did,
right,
all
right.
those like funny things that they
And
had
you
initially.
yeah, and you had like 5, maybe 5 or 6 people that you knew before it really started to take off. But what were you doing back in those days to really drive growth or awareness, because social media was such a new thing to everybody?
Yeah, it was really new, and it was not easily accepted by the dental profession, I have to
Hmm.
say. A lot of doctors were really concerned about putting, more personal type of photos out there, and felt like it was unprofessional, and, were just really second guessing and questioning the validity of it. And so it took a lot of, education. I did a lot of speaking. The courses were always really well received. Initially, the ADA, the American Dental Association, had some big courses, and I was lucky enough to get invited to those, courses to be able to present, and we would have a packed house of 300 people in the room that were all curious about how to use Facebook. And it was exciting,
Hmm.
because it was new. And then obviously it took off. But initially, the way that I presented it, which I still believe to this day, is at the core, we're using it to build trust with patients, and using it for that relationship aspect, because there are still patients in dentistry that are coming into the practice that are fearful. There's patients still that have concerns about finances. There's patients that just don't really know what to expect, and so it's really a great tool to be able to make those connections with patients. I mean, that's really the biggest, most powerful thing that we're still seeing today.
Totally. And I know you and I connected because we're both SEN members too. But I really liked that you were on board with the story based and emotive part and had been preaching that gospel for years. Because it is omitted a lot from any marketing conversations. I mean, it's so focused on, I need results, I need collections, I need new patients. And there's no talk, even the marketers that are in this space now, I mean, they all have their silver bullet, they all have their little thing and they have their package, but there's never really any talk about the fact that people are fearful of going to the dentist, the like emotions that are driving them, how people build trust, especially with something they're concerned with, is like going to a dentist and I'm concerned I'm in pain or there's something I don't like. And so I've got all of this self-conscious and this fear and trepidation, and then you're talking to me about what you're going to do to me, which is really not what I want to hear. I just want to know, can I watch Netflix and just relax while you guys do what you do? And so I was always really excited to get to do this specific conversation with you, just because we were so on par with the way that we looked at things. But just to see how now you see it evolving, because there are, I mean, I see like the TikTok consultants and stuff, which to me is to a like, if you want that big following just for the vanity of having it, like, go get it, but it doesn't really correlate to dollars, it doesn't correlate to collections. And so I'm curious to get your take on where do you see things currently? What do you see doctors maybe chasing that's not really worthwhile? And what do you see that's still meaningful? Just kind of, what are you seeing in the space right
Yeah.
now?
Yeah. Thank you for asking. And I did want to commend you for saying that some patients might be self-conscious also, because I think that's another piece that we miss. They are fearful that they're going to be judged. So they're not just fearful like, oh my gosh, what's going to happen? Are you going to poke me with a needle or that type of thing? But also self-conscious about, are you going to judge me because I haven't seen a dentist in however many years? Or are you going to judge me because of the way my teeth look, or whatever. So thank you for mentioning that, because that's the other part of it too, is that we want to, come across as being warm and friendly and welcoming, and that we're not going to judge people when they come in. But um, yeah, I think we actually are in the midst of a tsunami right now, Sean, with
Hmm.
social media. And I listened to a webinar the other day and they were talking about the social media manager unhinged. And I was like, that's a great description, because as you know, there is a growing popularity with the TikTok skits and the challenges, and the more absurd and ridiculous it is, the more viral it can be and the more popular it can be. But I think, and in fact, we have a program that my team and I have been working on for a couple of months now. We're releasing it here shortly, about guidelines, because we do have to try and find that middle ground between having fun and also understanding that we are healthcare and we do have compliance that we have to be concerned about, that no one's really talking about, and that we're forgetting when we're seeing more and more of these TikTok skits. So I think that you really today have to be more careful than ever before about what the message is that you're trying to get across, remembering all of those different perceptions and life experiences that our patients have had. And so if something's really funny to you, and for Gen Z, their idea of humor is going to be much different than probably all of the other generations of patients, whether it's Gen X, Gen Y, and of course, as you become more mature, it's going to be even more separated. So I think we have to take into consideration all of those different perspectives and life experiences and understand that Gen Z's sense of humor is just different. It does lean more towards, what's absurd and ridiculous and super funny for them is going to be maybe too extreme for some of your other audiences. So what are you seeing?
Well, I see a lot of people kind of playing on, obviously the practice wants to be known and they want to have a following, but also just playing on that more to the doctor of, don't you want to be known? Don't you want, a funny tick, like what you're saying? Don't you want that
Mm.
humor? But at the end of the day, it's like when you're a dentist and you're worth $800 an hour, is it worth your time to do this challenge and post a TikTok video that really at the end of the day, when I meet doctors and they come to me and they need marketing, and it's like, okay, well, we need to track a return on the investment you're making. With TikTok and stuff, there really isn't one because it's too big of an audience. They're too spread out. There's stuff that you can do in a more consolidated way. Like, getting 200 followers within a 5-mile radius of the practice is way more valuable than 10,000 that are spread all over the world. Right. And so just some of the stuff that, I see doctors paying egregious amounts of money, Rita, like one of our clients was, hey, this TikTok guy came into the practice. He lives nearby. He wants me to pay $2,500 a month. I'm like, you're out of your mind. Like, that's what are you going to do with that money? Like that where's it going to go? You're never going to really make it back. And so that's really something I see is doctors. It's like they have this new shiny, exciting thing and everybody's talking about it. And they're like, well, cool. Well, if I jump on the TikTok train, we're going to have crazy amount of new patients and everybody's going to know who we are. And that's not what the platform's designed for, and you have these inexperienced marketers that are they're trying, and I get it, they're trying to do their thing, but they don't understand dentistry or how dentistry is sold or how dentists relate to a community. And so there's like a zero sum game here in terms of ROI. And the doctors are spending time, their teams are spending time making this content that nobody really viable sees to get it
Yeah.
back. And then, my docs, some of my clients have burned through serious amounts of cash and they're like, yeah, that didn't work. Like, yeah, like, I appreciate you trying, but if you guys want to have fun, just have fun. You don't have to hire a consultant to have fun, just have fun.
Yeah.
But also have like guardrails on why are we doing this? Why am I taking an hour out of my day to make this video with you guys? And I know it's like womp womp, like being like being like the negative Nancy, but it's true. I mean, doctors are so focused on results and then they kind of get sold into doing these things that really don't at the end of the day matter to the bottom line of what they're trying to do. So that's really the biggest thing I see with TikTok, and then just Instagram and Facebook and all those things, the way that Meta keeps changing things and they constantly are changing things, and it's almost unusable now in terms of like any kind of paid promotion. I mean, all the time, Rita, like if I'm sitting on Instagram and I'll see a local ad for a dentist that's like 50 miles away from me. I mean, over an hour drive, and I'll
Yeah.
comment and I'll be like, your radius is way too far. Like you guys are burning through money.
Yeah.
But it's like people do it for the sake of doing it, not with the intentionality and the planning of, well, let's do it with a plan behind it. And that's why I love Connect 90, because you guys have a plan. And it's like, we're going to do social media for the sake of doing it in a valuable way, not just, hey, it's National Pickle Day, I'm going to post
Oh my
a
gosh.
right. And people are like, yeah, who cares? Like, I'm going to mute you if you keep posting that stuff in my feed. So that's really, not to go on a tangent, but there's so much stuff with social media, and we don't do social media at ADM, but there's so much stuff that I see that I'm just like, oh, like quit doing that.
Yeah.
And TikTok consultants, like, leave dentists alone because nothing you're doing for them is really going to provide anything meaningful unless you've revolutionized how to use the platform for a really tight, consolidated audience. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. And it's not just dentistry. I mean, I listened to a webinar that was geared towards corporate organizations recently, and they were talking about the social media manager unhinged in different corporate environments. And they're having the same challenges where there are just fresh perspectives coming in from Gen Z. And though they are totally different, because when you think about it, Sean, the way that we've used social media really for the past, 10 plus years has been rather consistent. It's been
Mhm.
about sharing photos primarily and sharing, more social type of topics, but also, some promotion, a little bit of salesy stuff of promoting your business. But now we've got more and more video, of course, that has been integrated over the years. But now the type of video is extremely different than, and the tone is extremely different than what we've been used to in the past. So it's kind of this crossroads of all of these different components. And I think that more than ever, you brought up the good point about how much are you spending on these videos and how much time, because you and I both know when you create a video, it's not done when you click the button to end the video. That's just the
No, it is not.
beginning.
Right.
It is, then you have the editing and you have, all of the captions and you have, all of these other pieces. So that's just the tip of the iceberg. So it is very intensive. And just to inform and educate the doctors that are listening, if you have someone that's been doing your social media for you and it's been mostly pictures, and now you say, here's all these video clips, post this for me, that's a tremendous amount of additional work to make sure that it looks good, and doing the editing and adding the captions and doing all the things. So you really want to make sure that, whatever you're paying, and at the end of the day, what that result is that you're getting is equivalent to whatever your goals are. So like you mentioned, the Connect 90 program, our program is very affordable every month because we are curating the topics that we're inviting our doctors to post about. And it's from what we've seen over the years that resonates with patients, the topics and the topics that they'll engage with, but also we're trying to make it easy for the team and saying, here's the specific picture that you could use, or here's the specific video clips that you can use to make this real in this way. And so it really is also considering how much time that they have. And we figured most of our clients spend about an hour a month to prepare their whole content calendar for the month ahead for Facebook, Instagram, Google Business, and more so LinkedIn company pages as well. And when you're just doing, short form video, you just have to be really careful about how much time you're spending. Like you said, how much money you're spending. But I think more importantly than ever, it's what is it that you're trying to achieve from making all of these videos? What's the story that you're painting? Because sometimes it's, making fun of the doctor, or, in a way that's not building confidence with the patient. It's like, you can really have this self-deprecating humor that's funny, but if patients don't really understand that, I saw most recently it was for a pediatric dentist, and I'm like, I'm not sure a mom really wants to bring her child to someone who she doesn't feel a lot of confidence in. So that's the other aspect of this too.
Oh, totally. Could not agree more. And I mean, we have a social media product, I guess you could say, at ADM. It's very basic, just because I had enough clients ask.
Yes.
And we try to take care of our people too and guide them. But with what you're doing at Connect 90, I can't encourage anybody listening that has a practice. This is an area where it is helpful to have guidance and advice and someone kind of steering the ship. And it's okay that you're not a marketer if you're a dentist, but it's, using social media effectively in something that's tried and true. And you've been doing this for long time, obviously, at this point. So there's something to what you're doing. But at the same point, when you look at the price of, let's say you go to Connect 90, you find out how much it costs. I don't know what it costs, but, and it's, oh, well, it's X amount per month. Also take into account, well, she's going to, Rita's program is going to shave 4 hours of my time out of the month, which, $3,500 probably worth of dentist time that you're saving by being pointed, and you're doing it in an effective way. Because I'm with you. I see some of the stuff on TikTok that doctors do, and I'm like I would not. I mean, it's funny, but I would not want to come see you. Like, there's a level between like almost unprofessional. Like you have those comedians and things. Sometimes they intentionally go too far, and like a shock kind of
Yes.
like shock comedy.
Mm-hmm.
Um, there's a lot of that stuff on TikTok too, of just, like scaring people, surprising people. And in a medical, like if I was a patient, I'd be like, do you guys just jack around all day? Like, like what are you guys doing all day? So
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I guess just the perception. I really didn't even think about how that could really sit with somebody of like, oh, that practice was funny, but like I would never go there.
Yeah, and we have to think about that a lot more too. It was funny because I was talking to a neighbor um, who is a millennial, a more mature millennial, I would say, and we were talking about these videos and trends, and I was asking her about them, and she's like, "Yeah, I'd like to ask my dentist, is that why it takes me, 4 months to get in for my cleaning appointment because y'all are doing all of these skits?" And I was like, "Oh boy, I had not thought about that." So
Yeah.
so we have to take all of that into consideration today because it's not just that one little skit, and we have to look at the big picture, which is easy for us to do when we look at your Instagram grid, or if you look at, if you're doing TikTok, and look at the compilation that you have. And I think in talking about all the different concerns, there are of course some standouts that have been doing this really well. And there's one, we can put it in the show notes and I'll send you the doctor's name, but she's a prosthodontist from California. And I think she has her videos on TikTok and YouTube, if I'm not mistaken. I'm not sure if she's also on Instagram Reels, but she does something where she basically shows some celebrity or someone who's famous and talks about their teeth up close and personal, like have they had veneers or not. And that's all she does. And I think it's really brilliant because it's so interesting. She's showing, like Tom Cruise from 20 years ago versus today, or Taylor Swift, or J Lo, or, Mark Santos. She had him on recently, or he wasn't on as a guest, but his pictures. So it's like, it's so interesting to see, her talking about what their teeth were like before and what they may have had done. And what I think is brilliant about it is that she has a system in place. She's elevated herself to really, wow, this doctor really knows what she's doing. She's a prosthodontist. So obviously we know internally in the dental industry that she has exceptional education and knowledge beyond probably the average dentist. But I think it's also really smart of her, that strategy of here's what I'm going to do, and this is what I'm doing for every video. And once she has an audience locked in, it's kind of like Dr. Pimple Popper, or yeah, right.
Hmm.
You have one topic that you're kind of talking about all the time. And obviously, if she wants to grow her veneer business, it's really brilliant. So I think if you can do something like that, that can really pay off for you versus the random, just we're going willy-nilly and haphazardly just making these crazy videos.
Yeah, you're so right. Like that's I think you yeah, like I think you nailed it. I mean, it's how you're pointing the content, right? It's if you like I love that too. I haven't seen these videos, but I like the approach. I did see a male dentist that was talking about Taylor Swift's teeth. But he may have gotten the idea from her, or as I guess it's Mrs. Kelsey now is her name. But
Oh.
anyways, no, I don't think that's true. But yeah, like that kind of content it's more informative, it's more building yourself as a brand. It's not you being silly or crazy
Hmm.
and having that, okay, we're not going to maybe get new patients out of this. I'm just going to be informative and put my face out there, put my name out there, do what I do, something unique. Yeah, I mean that definitely is worthwhile, especially if you do more advanced things that people would be willing to fly across the country for. But if you're just a
Hmm.
basic GP general practice, uh, I mean, feel free again, do TikTok. I don't mean to rain on your parade. Just don't spend thousands of dollars and hours of your time having your team come in for 5 hours on a Saturday to shoot TikToks is crazy to me. Anyway, that's my
Yeah.
professional opinion.
Yeah, I think you have to think about what your goals are at the end of the day, how you want to be perceived. And also, sometimes it's like you don't know what you don't know. So they might be like, well, what's the difference between posting a photo on Instagram versus creating a video for TikTok? And it's like, oh my gosh, let me just explain. You know what I mean? So, you know,
Well, I'm going to go a little long on this episode if it's okay with you, because we got on our TikTok
absolutely.
tangent and I did need to
Yes.
ask you some stuff. So this
Okay.
episode's going to go a little bit longer, but what are the main things that you see just kind of industry wide that practices kind of suffer from with? I want to do Instagram specific and then do Facebook specific. So Instagram, what are some of the things like when you're looking at practices that you just kind of massively see, hey, these are the things that any dentist probably could go to their Instagram after listening to this show and fix like this and this.
Mhm.
and they get better engagement, things like that. What are like the main things that you see with
Mhm.
Instagram?
Oh, I would say the biggest thing is looking at lost opportunities. So when you look at your Instagram grid, oftentimes the dentist will say, we really want to do more clear aligners, or we want to do more dental implants, or we want to attract, more kids to our practice, or moms with young families. Or we want to attract only adult, more mature adult patients for these more bigger investment smile makeover type thing. And so look and make sure that whatever you have posted is supporting those goals, and not just taking up wasted space. Like sometimes I'll see, we'll look at a grid and it's got like every holiday from last year, some generic like holiday greeting. And I'm like, get all that stuff off your grid. Like if you want to post it for the holiday, I understand. But if you're not getting a lot of engagement on it anyways, just go ahead and archive it or just delete it, and make sure that your grid is really supporting your goals, because that, patient that's considering becoming a patient in your practice, or even if they're considering accepting a big treatment from you, they're going to go through that same process and look at your social media. And this is where it could be really well done in as much or as little time as you want to invest. But if you wanted to grow, those smile makeovers for a mature audience, then make sure you don't have a lot of kids in your grid, because that's sending a different message. Then make sure that you have photos or videos that are going to help to support that particular type of practice. So really just taking a good look at your grid and saying, is what I have here supporting my goals? And if it's not, then let's go ahead and just delete that or archive it, and start posting content with intention. About, doesn't mean that every post has to be about a smile makeover or implants or whatever, but it can be a mixture of some more social type of topics, and also more promotional topics. But that's really the big thing, because if you have a lot of funny skits or things that aren't really applicable, like the generic holiday photo, if you have, like I said, every holiday from last year on there, 4th of July holiday, it's not going to help you to
Hmm.
really make a point with the patient. So I think that's probably the biggest thing that's really easy to do. And the second thing that's really important is to make sure that you have your bio filled out. You now have the opportunity to have multiple links. For the longest time, you could only have one link, your website link, but now you can have multiple links. So make sure you're taking advantage of that and really filling out your bio, because it's worth a second look even to see if it's still supportive of your current goals. So those are the top two things. And number three, I would say, if we're going to just give them three takeaways from this, is just, to get started on getting comfortable with some video. Because as you and I know, Sean, whether we like it or not, reels are being shoved down our throat on a
Right.
consistent basis, because Instagram's competing with TikTok. And it really can help you to, not only with the visibility, but also to really let your patients see who you are. So there's a lot of great ways that you can very easily create good, short form video content. And so I think getting comfortable with that, if you're not already, is another great takeaway.
Awesome stuff. And I love that you mentioned the Instagram TikTok competition, because I personally like the feed. I don't know if they call it for you, but the feed that Instagram gives you. Granted, they have all of your Facebook info that's guiding that algorithm too. TikTok, I get
Yes.
some just off the wall stuff that I'm just like, not interested, not interested, not interested. But Instagram really seems to nail it. And I prefer if it's a local business. Like I see a lot of like HVAC fence companies, like they're really starting to dial this in. If it's a local business, I like to see them on Instagram versus TikTok. And it's like with all these different social media channels, it's like seeing them as like different cable channels, right? Like you go to ESPN to watch a certain type of content, right? You go to
Yes.
HGTV to watch a certain type of content. I don't, but people do, right? To watch a
Yeah.
certain type. And so looking at, I go to LinkedIn and I expect the content in a certain format, worded a certain way, structured. I'm going to read a longer post on LinkedIn than I will on a caption on Instagram, and especially on Facebook. Like I really am just like looking at pictures flying through the feed. I'm not going to read a long thing on Facebook. And so I'm really glad that you talked about the Instagram TikTok connection, because there is such a connection. And now you have YouTube Shorts that's entering the fray too,
Yes.
which I don't know about you, but I'm not a huge fan of YouTube Shorts personally. I think they just get in the
Oh,
way. But
yeah.
what do you think of YouTube Shorts?
I do like shorts. I think that, sometimes before, I'm a huge fan of the Huberman Lab, and some of his Dr. Andrew, he's a doctor, I think, right? Well, he's a neuroscientist, I believe. So he has these videos that are super in depth. They could be like an hour or 2 hours long sometimes. So I love the shorts that he puts out because it just gives me a little snippet of what it's going to be about. And I'm like, oh, I'm really interested in that. I think I'm going to watch the whole thing. And so I like YouTube shorts. I think
It
they're
could
pretty
just
cool.
it could just be my brain conditioning of I go to YouTube to watch longer form video. So it's probably me.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. They don't get in the way though. They're not interrupting,
yeah, yeah.
so far.
So last question then. Let's talk Facebook. So what are the cardinal sins that you see? I have my own, but I'm going to let you shine and do this because you're the expert social media marketer. What do you see practices doing wrong, missed opportunities, etc., when it comes
Hmm.
to Facebook?
Oh, I think just, first of all, ignoring it to a certain extent, and saying, I don't think we need to post there anymore because it's not necessarily going to be worthwhile. And, if you're using a scheduling tool, which you should, as you know, I'm sure, Sean, a
Hmm.
content calendar and a scheduling tool, it's really easy to post content to Facebook. And I think just knowing that it still is the most powerful social media platform on the planet, and that there are a lot of people that use Facebook all the time that still say, I am not on Facebook. I don't use Facebook. I mean, I talk to team members, young team members, all the time when we're getting them set up to use social media for business, because I tell them this is different. And they're like, oh, I don't use social media personally. But then we'll be getting their page set up and, starting to get things connected. And they're like, oh, well, I can just friend you on Facebook. It might be easier to add me as an admin that way. And I'm like, okay, I thought you just said you didn't use Facebook or
Hmm.
have. And then we end up getting connected. And I'm like, well, y'all are on there a lot, actually. So I don't know. It's just maybe not cool to say, obviously, that you're on Facebook if you're younger, but then you are. And so I think just not really, the missed opportunity is not really understanding how powerful it is. And then also, I see it because obviously I'm on Facebook a lot for work and Instagram and all the things, but I see, things posted in my neighborhood group where someone will say something like, what was that noise? Or, I mean, we here in my community had a massive fire almost 2 years ago that burned 1,000 homes.
Mm.
And the way that I found out about the fire was not through the emergency alert system. We actually did not get an emergency alert warning to evacuate. We found out through Facebook, as did many of our neighbors in the community. We saw that the sky was orange and went to our local Facebook group, and everyone was like, there's a fire, posting pictures, videos, people were evacuating Costco. That's how we found out about the fire. So, yeah, people are very active in different groups. And I think through, all of the changes that are going right now, also with AI, which is a whole nother conversation. And you probably seen this, Sean, but I feel like we're going to start coming back to like, what was that original purpose of using social media? Because it's gotten so out of hand to a certain extent where now engagement is the most important part of social media. And I get it, but there are tools out there where AI is responding to your patient's comment. And it's like, this is kind of ridiculous. Like, what are we doing here? So I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see how things come about. But I think for Facebook, just remembering what the original purpose of it was, which is to build trust with patients, to allow them an opportunity to communicate with you through Messenger, which is where they're already potentially spending their time, and realizing that it doesn't have to cost a ton of time or money to support that platform if you're already using a content calendar and a scheduling tool like you should be. to post to all those other platforms. So
Yeah, it seems like you can get so busy doing everything that you're not really great at anything anymore. And I always say, I mean, I like LinkedIn, especially depending on the kind of dentistry, but Instagram, Facebook, Google Business, like you said, I was glad to hear you talk about posting there. And we have a free resource, Pocket Video Coach. I think I shared it with you a long time ago that we made during COVID that teaches people how to make high quality video with their phone. It's totally free. It's just pocketvideocoach.com. We again, it was during COVID because you have doctors and people trying to make video, and it's like they're in like a dark room and you can't hear what they're saying. So we tried to just make a really quick 7-module training that somebody could go through in an afternoon, where you can create, because I mean your phone's shooting 4K. I mean you can make beautiful content. Just stabilize it, get some audio and some lighting, and you're good to go. So we have a lot of fun with that. A lot of docs seem to like it, but I feel like me and you could talk forever. I mean, I do want to pick your brain about AI. I do want to talk to you about a lot of things that Connect 90's doing, and I'll probably have you on again just so we can have another discussion. But
that would be awesome.
What's big for 2024? Where are you headed? I know you've got new stuff launching. I'm sure you're going to be at some of the big dental events speaking. How can people connect with you? What do you have coming? Feel free to just lay it all out there and how people can get in touch with you too.
Yeah, thank you. Well, the big meeting that will be coming up in 2024 early is Chicago Midwinter, which is one of my favorite meetings, if not the most favorite meeting. We always seem to see everyone there. And so that'll be the big meeting. Hopefully I'll see some listeners there. I have 2 courses that I'm teaching, Instagram marketing for your practice, and then also one course built on my book, Get Found, Get Liked, Get Patients. And I'll be doing a book signing for Care Credit. We'll be giving away copies of my book. So that's the big thing, coming up in 2024. And just, I'm going to continue to keep refining and working on our Connect 90 program. We have incredible retention with our program, which tells me that we're really hitting the mark with supporting our clients, which is what my biggest goal is, even more than getting out and being on the road speaking, which can be fun, but can also be really distracting when, you have these core goals. Just like I tell the dentist, what is your goal, and is what you're doing really helping to support that? And my goal right now is to continue to support dentists in any way that's going to be helpful to save them time, get them better results, make it something that's easy and affordable for them. So that's what we're just going to continue to working on, creating great content and resources for them that's going to keep helping them to save time so they can, take better care of their team and their patients.
That's awesome. Well, if you guys want to check out more with what Rita's up to and Connect 90, it's Connect 90. So if it's Connect and write out 90, does it still go there?
I don't know. I'll have to ask my web people, but do the 90, so Connect 90.
Connect 90. It's a really cool program. It's one of the most comprehensive I've seen. And also you have guidance. It's not some of the things that I see the doctors sign up for. It's like, hey, great, thanks for signing up. Here's all the stuff, you do it.
No, it's all personalized and all with support.
So definitely check it out. Any ADM customers that are listening, if you are interested, let me know. I'll get you connected to Rita or just reach out to her. Rita, thank you so much for being on the show. I appreciate it more than you know. All right. Well, hopefully I'll see you at Midwinter.
Yes, for sure.
All righty. Take care. Thank you so much.
Thank you.